live.
July, thank you so much. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gerardo Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Africa Luna Carrasco,
Present.
Councilmember Mario Buchanan Jr., Councilmember Luis Cabrera,
Present.
Councilmember Jose Ponce,
Present.
Councilmember Matias Rosales, Councilmember Gloria Torres.
Sorry, present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Could Mr. Ponce, could you lead us with the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Ponce. We're going to go ahead with discussion and possible action item 3A. Discussion and possible action on matters regarding resolution number 2174, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Luis approving a development agreement between a protected developments rights agreement for electricity generating using a solar wind power with developer Kennering and Company, Kennering Global Solutions and Company, Arizona Green Power LLC. Item to be continued in regular council meeting held May 12th, 2021. Glenn?
Honorable Mayor, members of council, this project began 6-7 years ago. This is the third time a development rights agreement has been brought in front of you. Development rights agreements last only for 3 years, and if development doesn't begin, they expire. So that's why this is coming in front of you tonight, and the timing of why a third agreement. This one is different in that it requires more water and for a longer period of time because of the impact of a data center, which will, if you will, justify and allow the financing of this project and for it to begin. Present tonight is Ron Pickett, who is the principal behind the solar tower development. We have just finished a question-answer session that has been live streamed, and he is present tonight, and I will turn this over to him. Oh, and if you will, members of council, Elohio Vera put a whisper in my ear at the close, and you may want to hear from Elohio as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, it's my privilege to be here tonight to kind of share with staff and some council members a long, detailed question and answer period about the tower, the background, the number of years that we've had working on the tower. I was pointing out when we started out that I think my first hearing here, my hair was still black. So this has been one of those ordeals. I am pleased to say, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, that we finally found the key to getting this over the hump, and that was the data center project. Glenn just mentioned in the development rights agreement, there's some more things in that than we had before. One, more infrastructure for us to pay for, and et cetera, et cetera. But the economics of the tower are the same. The employees, the economic benefits. What's been enhanced is a $1.2 billion data center that will bring another 130 employees to the city that are actually a little higher paying employees than the tower will be bringing in. And that's a tax base as well. So I have felt very good about the project and the prospects of getting, having a meeting within the next 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 months where we're handing out gold shovels. That's really the goal here tonight, is to move this forward. Glenn mentioned the main ingredient in the development rights agreement is the following. It was always 50 years. We didn't change the request for the amount of time. But the tower originally was, in the original design, was not putting out as much energy as it's putting out today. And so the 8,000 acre feet that was originally approved in the original development rights agreements for the tower alone, it needs 11,000 acre feet just because it makes more electricity. That water just gets recycled. We're borrowing it. We take it out of the ground. We pay for the wells and pay for the infrastructure, pay the city for the water, and we put it back in the ground. The data center will be requiring about 1.7 1,700 acre feet a year. That is for their cooling tower. That too evaporates. They're not discharging gray water. This is not, I mean, they'll have a few toilets and whatnot, but they're not taking that water and, contaminating it and sticking it in the sewer system or making a byproduct of it. This is water that evaporates much the same as ours, except we know our water that we put back in the ground comes out as cold, damp air and sinks directly into the ground, just like we were irrigating a crop. We went through that with the state. They understand it, and that was the basis of all that before we got the first development rights agreement. We brought that study back from the state, and everybody agreed with that. But the data center is a little different because their cooling tower will have evaporative water, and that will come down, but not right on the ground underneath it like ours does. But it's not like they're taking that water and making gray water out of it. So I hope in the wisdom of the city that we can create this tower and this data center and hopefully some other green users on site. We discussed that at length this morning or this afternoon. And I hope in your wisdom you decide to move forward with the project, because now is the time for this to happen. It's pretty exciting for me to have got it this far, but frankly, we're here tonight, and this is the hurdle.
Ron, Glenn, could you give me a brief of the discussion the main concern was?
Okay, the main concern at this time where people have a problem is the pledge of 12,500 acre feet of water for 50 years. Our previous pledge was 8,500 acre feet for 25 years. And so what? No, actually in the previous agreements it was 25, Ron. Believe it or not, and I looked. But, again, this one says 50 years, and so as a result, there has been, if you will, some concern about that number. You have to also understand that what you had previously out here, and I believe Elizabeth Carpenter is present online and she can verify this, is that Eddie Lou had this square mile and the other square mile between D and E in Citrus, and you had another half square mile across from the private prison in Citrus, all of which is no longer there. My understanding and my memory is Citrus per square mile was pumping 10,000 acre feet a year. So if you will, if you view the tower, as the Citrus is no longer there or pumping, as simply trading the water that previously went for Citrus to now go for the tower, we're really not, if you will, using any more water than what was there at the time of our assured water supply study. Because when we did our study in 2010, this land was all in Citrus, and the Citrus was pumping, and that was part of the study. Also, and Elohio did not, Elohio is here, and he has done some mental calculations during our question and answer session. Ron has represented that 70% of the water after initial charge of the tower is recaptured and recycled back through the tower. With the remaining 30% is cold, damp air that goes into the ground, so in theory, you're recharging the aquifer. But if you view that 30% as being what's really coming out of the ground, all of a sudden, Elohio is no longer worried about water anymore. Now, obviously, that's verification of the calculations coming from Ron Pickett that it's 30%. That's 70% is recaptured, goes back into the tower. 30% is cold, damp air going into the ground. But with that information, if that's the case, Elohio's not bothered at all. And I leave this to Ron, and I leave it to Elohio, because I'm just the lawyer.
Mr. Elohio, I want to speak to Mr. Elohio.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Any questions specifically, Mayor?
Well, first of all, the first question is, do we have a 100-year guarantee of water certification?
We currently have a 100-year assured water supply designation from ADWR. It was done we received it, the city received it in 2010. And in that designation, there's a limitation as far as when we have to reapply for it or worry about it pretty much. And one of the criteria is exceeding the 8,000 acre feet per year. The other one is, I believe, is reaching where the water table drops. I can't remember the exact number, but it's significant. We're not even close to that number. And then the other one is, I think, reaching the end of the period, which would be 2030. And it suggests that we reapply if we're exceeding the allowed or the 8,000 acre feet per year pumping out of the aquifer, or I believe it's like a couple years before the 2030 time frame, we have to revisit and reapply for the assured water supply designation. If we continue our current growth, we wouldn't be in jeopardy of losing the designation by 2030. If we were to...
We would or we wouldn't?
We would not.
Okay.
We would not be in jeopardy with the current growth rate, residential, and the current commercial growth rate as well. In the event that we were to receive some of the major industry that has been interested in San Luis lately in the last couple of years that I've seen, that have been requesting in the ballpark of similar amount that the city uses right now. In acre feet would be around 3 to 4 acre feet, 3 to 4,000 acre feet per year. Then the city would definitely have to be looking at, if we were to get, for example, 2 of those, we would definitely be going back to ADWR and trying to acquire that assured water supply designation.
Okay.
This tower, this project, during the question and answer session, I learned something that I didn't know before, that 70% of the water was being recharged. Mr. Pickett clarified that for us here verbally. We would be expecting some documentation to show that that's the case, that 70% of the 11,000 acre feet would be going back to the groundwater. With that, just so you guys get a feel for the amount of water we're talking about, right now the average consumption is 3,700 acre feet per year. I believe that's the numbers Jorge provided us as far as the consumption for the last fiscal year, I believe it was
3.7.
Yeah, 3,700 acre feet. So in comparison to this project, which is 12,000 500 acre feet per year. So it's significant. It's 3 times as much roughly.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Just to clarify on the years, on the year of usage for the acre feet, it's actually 2020, the calendar year of 2020.
Calendar year,
Yes.
okay. So with that said, if we do 30, only losing 30% of the 11,000 acre feet, we're roughly losing or using about the same amount the city is using right now. So it's like overnight, let's say the tower was in place overnight, you know, it's about like the city had grown twice the size of what we have now. But even if that was the case, and other projects are not happening, we would still be under the threshold that the current designation includes, which is a little bit over 8,000 acre feet per year.
Okay. Mr. Herrera, could you explain any, for example, I believe that there was also a discussion regarding wells, regarding the dropping of levels in certain wells. Is that so?
So yes, looking at the groundwater data, and you know, this project, I think it's been going on for some time, but it was really not moving, and staff wasn't really thinking about it. We have been involved the last couple of weeks, really looking at the agreement and different information. But the groundwater, and we looked at well site 7, just because that's our biggest well, and this is the one closest to the project site. But it looks like it's dropped about a foot per year as far as the water table is concerned. So in 10 years, it's dropped about 10 feet.
Okay.
That's just based on our data that we collect throughout the year, every month. We go and measure the water table. But to say that it's little or it's a lot, you know, I'm not comfortable saying either way, just because I don't have that background. We really don't have a reference, say, well, you know, it dropped 10 feet, but really we have, you know, 3,000 to lose. You know, I just don't have that information. Or we lost 10 feet and we have 20 to lose. I just don't have that information. That's one of the things that I think before this 2 weeks, there was other projects that were coming to San Luis and being interested, and they were actually requiring significant amount of water. That was one of the studies that we wanted to complete, to make sure that we have some sort of master plan as far as how much commitments the city can be, you know, or feel comfortable getting into in the next decade or so. I mean, fortunately, San Luis has a lot of water. Fortunately, the area has a lot of water. But I think it's healthy to have some kind of a reference, you know, for people to go back and look at. When industry looking for at our area, you know, we can definitely give us a firm yes or an A, you know, with something to back it up.
Yeah, because I know that for a fact that the industry that we want to attract industry, the fact is they also look at the water, and most of them will require water, not just the tower, but any kind of industry. Most of the time, manufacturing require water. And so, how long will it take to do this study?
I do not have a answer for that. We were trying to get that before this meeting. I was not able to get that information. We do, however, you know, we were able to contact one of our on-call larger consultants, and they recommended a firm, but I wasn't able to get a scope together or a time frame as far as how much it will take them to give us a report or a study.
Okay. The biggest concern here, what I've heard, was consumption of water. I know for a fact Mexico, San Diego Corral, is using the same aqueduct we are, and they're building their pump stations deeper, and they're actually making more per year than we have ever. So do we take that into account because of the drop of those 10-foot drop on our wells?
No. What we looked at, it was just data from our monitoring wells. We definitely didn't do any type of analysis. That
Okay.
Mexico pumping influences that drop, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. That Bureau of Reclamation has a well field parallel to the international boundary. They pump also. I'm not sure how much, but does they have an impact? Yes, it does.
Yeah, no, because it's a treaty with Mexico. It's a treaty with Mexico. So when you say drop 10 feet, that worries me when you say that. When anyone says 10 feet, we need to justify. Whenever we say we drop 10 feet, is it people are thinking it's because of the growth we're having? But we need to make sure that that's the reason why. That's why it's really hard when someone precipitates and says it's dropped 10 feet over 10 years. We need to be very careful how we say that, because if that's the case, we need to stop all growth. We will be running out of water soon.
What,
But we're not. I realize that.
well, just to clarify, it did drop 10 feet.
Yeah.
We use that water. I'm not saying that. We're just saying that the aquifer dropped 10 feet. That's a fact.
And how many aquifers are we connected to?
According to the study, where this project's located, and where our well site 7 is located, and our well fields, it's a aquifer that's independent of the Colorado River. According to the current study that we have filed to ADWR for the current assured water supply designation.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the spot where our well is.
Correct, as well as where this project would be. And like I said, it's 10 feet. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's out of 10,000 feet. You know, it's just some information that I don't have, and I don't feel comfortable really making any type of statement
No.
that we're using up all our water. I don't have that information.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor for any discussion. But before I do that, Mr. Ron Pickett, it appears that we need to see some documentation regarding the 70% of replenishing of our water. The biggest concern that I see right now, I kind of listened to what was said before, was the guarantee of water. Water is a big resource. And for the first time, Arizona is going to be cut its resources. It's going to be, it's being cut its quota. So,
Mr. If I might make one.
our biggest, yes, please.
I'd like to make one clarification. The 70-30% is being misconstrued. We recapture 70% of what we pump inside the tower and recirculate that. We discharge out the tunnels cold, damp air that settles back into the ground and recharges the aquifer. We're not net using anything. We're not using 70%. I just pointed out in the description of the tower that we recapture inside the tower and recirculate that water. All the water that we're drawing out, 11,000 acre feet a year, goes through the tower, some gets recycled, the residue goes out as cold damp air and recharges the aquifer. 11,000 acre feet is going to recharge the aquifer. We're going to take out 11,000 and recharge the aquifer with 11,000. Now there's, with some minor little tiny evaporation like you get when you water an orchard or something. Now the data center needs 1.7 thousand acre feet. That is for cooling tower. That evaporates over the cooling tower, and it doesn't go directly down into the ground like our cold air does, but it does go back to the ground. It's pure, clean water that's evaporated. It's not gray water discharge. We don't have any gray water discharge from the tower operation. We're simply borrowing this water, and it goes back to the aquifer. We're not using 70%. We're recycling 70%, recirculating 70% into the tower. We're taking 11,000 out and putting 11,000 back. We take 1,700 feet out for the data center and use it for the cooling tower, not for any manufacturing facility, not making gray water, not making anything to dispose of. It's just evaporative cooling. It all comes right back down to earth. So I wanted to clarify that, and I'd like for Glenn also pointed out that it was initially for 50 years, but Glenn can verify that.
And To clarify the record, I apologize to council, but all previous agreements also said 50 years. So what's happened here is we've gone from 8,000 acre feet for 50 years to 12,500 acre feet for 50 years in this agreement. And again, it has the capture and the cold damp air as Ron has described. You're right, Mayor. I mean, Elohio had correctly said he'd love to see something that verifies that, and I'm positive Ron can probably easily supply the, if you will, I mean, he's had this studied to death by different engineering groups, and I'm positive he can share that information with Elohio and make sure, and so that Elohio is comfortable with that. And again, if you will, the previous land, I mean, this is land that was in citrus, that was pumping for agricultural purposes greater than the amount of water we're talking here, and that pumping was going on when we had our study and we had our 100-year assured supply of water. So we should be able to maintain, we should be able easily to keep our designation. Our present designation is we're using 40% of what that thing said we had available to us easily for 100 years. If that's the case, we can double our size and still be comfortable if that study holds true. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't intend to become one, but I will tell you on my experiences with wells in aquifer in Maricopa County, a 1 foot drop per year is considered nothing. But again, I have to defer to people who are experts in this area, and I'm not it.
Thank you, Glenn.
One more follow-up, please. From the first time that we talked about this years ago, and at the time it was 8,000 acre feet, and we knew that the orchards had been using 13,000 acre feet there. If you recall, you all sent me up to the state, I forget which agency I met with, to go through the state, all the technical stuff on this. The tower is incapable. There's nothing in the tower that uses water. Nothing. It doesn't process water, it doesn't change the water, it doesn't do anything to it, it doesn't discharge any water. Depending upon the atmospheric conditions of any given day, time, temperature, and relative humidity, cold, damp air comes out of the tunnels and sinks back into the ground. It doesn't go anywhere else. It can't go anywhere else. There is no water loss. There's nothing goes out the top of the tower, not like a cooling tower. It all goes down. We're sucking down in. The water that we use to spray the hot, dry air, anything that we don't recirculate, and even after it keeps recirculating, every drop of that net 11,000 acre feet per year will come out as cold, damp air and go back into recharge the aquifer. We don't use any water. We're just borrowing it and putting it back. It's not 30% or 70%, it's 100%. Give it or take a little teeny bit that when you when the cold damp air comes out, there's some ambient change in temperature, so there might be a little bit of evaporation off the top. It's probably immeasurable. I don't know what it would be, but it's nothing, it's not even a consideration here. I don't even know how you would measure that, depending on the day and the relative humidity. We do not use water. We're recharging the aquifer. There's not another development that I know of that's not going to use your water, period. We don't use it. We're just borrowing it and putting it back in the ground.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pickett. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for any discussion. Africa, Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mayor. I'm a little bit concerned about the whole water situation, and I know Mr. Pickett just explained it in detail, but I would feel more comfortable if we had that study that Elohio was talking about.
Mr. Elogio, regarding that study, my next question is, how long will it take?
Mayor, Mayor. I would like to give you a firm answer on that one. I really don't have a good idea how long it would take.
How long did it take, the previous one take?
I wasn't around, but what we're looking at here, I think it would be simpler than what was done before for the assured water supply designation, for sure. I'm pretty sure that one took a while, but I just don't have a clue really how long it would take. I'm thinking really it's a matter of really analyzing the current study and then looking at what we expect to see as future growth, and then really tell us some kind of guideline, what type of use and yields, we should be able to pump out of the aquifer. But I really don't have an idea how long it would take.
Yeah, Mayor, I would just hate to, if this would cause us to close the doors to future industry and stuff like that, I would hate to do that. This is a 50-year commitment, so it's something that we really have to look into carefully.
Okay. Matias?
Hey, Mayor. Apologize, I logged in a little bit late, but I get the gist of the conversation. The study is being suggested by staff, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. But who's covering that cost of the study? The developer, right? If it needs to be done?
That's a good question. If we, I guess this is a legal question. Glenn?
The current study cost the city $70,000 at the time and took 6 months to get done. The current development agreement, the proposed agreement that you have in front of you says that the developer will pay all of the costs of a hydrological study to keep our 100-year assured supply of water and keep our designation pursuant to the current order of the Arizona Department of Water Resources. If this project begins to be developed, if it becomes, if you will, for want of a better word, a real deal, that would trigger that clause. If we can't keep our 100-year assured supply of water, we don't have the duty to supply water, and that's basically how this agreement works. If you're looking for a study prior to approving this agreement,
It's going to cost them.
then that would be at the city expense, and that would depend on just how much in depth you want to provide a study. Example with the current study, what was done before. People needed to measure the recharge rate of the aquifer. This meant they pumped close to 3 or 4 million gallons of water and just threw it on the ground to check the recharge rate of the aquifer. Just how much in depth do you want? That also requires the cost. This particular study we got the first time was a unique blend of experts that a gentleman by the name of Bill Plummer, who was a top water consultant, put together. I don't know if that group is still available anymore. If not, double the cost. Start thinking about $150,000, $200,000 for a true 100% all the bells and whistles hydrological study. Again, without an agreement, I don't think Mr. Pickett is going to pay for it. And so I leave that to you. That was a question I posed to staff. Okay, you want all these studies, who's going to pay for it? And of course, I get blank stares around the room. I leave it back to you, Mayor.
So Glenn, or
Mr.
so
Gibbons?
if the development agreement shows that if we go into agreement, the study is not an option, it is being required, then the developer will pay that study at that point and when it's needed.
That is my understanding, but Glenn, please verify it.
Correct. I mean, look at Article 3 and the very first paragraph within the proposed agreement.
I sent it in the email earlier today. We were still working on it till the last minute, so.
Could you read it, Kate?
Oh, yes, I've been involved all along. Oh, you want to read it out loud?
I mean, I got the agreement, I got the email, but that's why I want to make sure. I mean, so why are we, I guess that's where I'm confused. I mean, if the study will be paid by the developer, so the issue is not going into the agreement, as long as it doesn't cost the city anything up front, and if it's something his project is going to come up to actually become a reality, he's going to pay for that study and it's a requirement. And at that point, if he can't get the assurance that we need from ADEQ in regards to our water supply, it doesn't go anywhere, then we're protected as a city. That's the way I'm viewing it, unless I'm misunderstanding everything. So that's all I have to add to it. Eulogio, unless you have something you're concerned about that I'm not understanding.
Councilman, you've read it exactly right.
Right, the only thing I wanted to clarify was, that I don't think as staff, what we wanted, it's not necessarily the entire full study, like Len mentioned, for the 100-year assured water supply designation. I think that would come when it's needed and down the road. Right now, really what we're trying to identify is a little bit more of trying to have some kind of guideline as far as how much, like Mayor was commenting earlier, you know, we drop 10 foot in the aquifer, you know, whether that's little or that's much, trying to identify how much water that we actually have and try to be able to provide that response to council and say, yeah, you know, it's 10 foot is really, sounds like a lot, but it's really, we have 1,000 foot to lose. So then we're trying to quantify that amount. And I think trying to also, this study that we're hoping to get, it would also help us sort of plan out, you know, how much water we can commit to industrial, how much water we can commit to commercial, understanding that lately we've been seeing some really large developments that are asking for a significant amount of water. So that was really the study that we're looking for up front, and that shouldn't take us as much as the full-blown study that would be required for ADWR for the 100-year assured water supply designation. And again, that's what we think we need. We still need to talk to a consultant and an expert, and so that way we can get a better feel as far as what direction we're heading.
Okay, let me jump in here. Have we paid any consultant at this point in time for this project, Glenn, or anyone?
Not that I know of.
Exactly.
To my knowledge, no. I have suggested the name of Bill Plummer, but, you know, I'm trying to be semi-retired, so I didn't try to call the gentleman, and nobody else did either. Bill is one of the top experts in water in Arizona. He advises the Yuma County Water Users Association, Yuma Mesa Irrigation District. He's a former director of the Arizona Department of Water Resources. He used to be in charge of the Bureau of Reclamation up in Henderson.
Okay, for clarification, so we don't need a full study. Mr. Vera wants some information specifically to try to answer the quantity of water we need. We also waiting for documentation. We will be waiting for documentation by Ron Pickett regarding the usage of water and recycling, and we definitely need a comment like that. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Let's see here, Gloria Torres, questions, concerns?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor, I support the project, but I would like to start to do analysis on the water to know how it can impact the future growth. That's my concern about the future growth that we can have. But if they do analysis I would recommend it to approval, if they be granted.
So are we willing to pay for this analysis? Because without the agreement, they won't pay for it.
I don't, depends, I mean, I really don't know, I mean, what the staff recommended or what the lawyer recommended, if I will agree with.
Mr. Ponce?
No. You, oh, hold on.
Mayor, members of the council, I think that's one of the items that staff has been requesting. Again, we support the project, but we want to be able to make sure that we have some analysis that can tell the council, the staff can recommend saying, yes, this project can come in, as well as other future industrial developments. We do have some funding from another project that we could potentially use that funding. That funding, I think, is a great investment because it's going to guide us as to what we can say yes to and what we can say no for any future developments in terms of industrial, residential, and commercial.
Thank you for that clarification, because that makes a big difference.
I agree there, Mayor, because if we're doing the study for this project only, that's where I would have an issue myself.
Yes.
But we've had this conversation before with Jenny and Iloka when we've had companies that want to come out to the east side of town, and they will require a lot of water usage. If we're doing the study for a general idea for our community and for what growth we could handle in light industrial and industrial parks, and this ties in and helps this project move forward, great. I just want to make sure we're just not doing it for this one project, because that's the part that I don't see spending on these smaller studies before anything comes to light out of it. So so that's why I agree with staff if it's not being done for that reason. But let's just make sure we clarify that, because I don't want later on to say, oh, we spent so much thousands of dollars on a project that, 20 years from now they didn't get built or something. I don't want to be that position. But I agree we need it for the other stuff.
Okay, Mr. Ponce?
Yes, Mayor. Same thing. I mean, I'm concerned about our water supply. I mean, for the future of our water supply to the city. And remember, the water table is we share the water table with San Luis, Mexico, and that's going to have an impact, with the cooling tower. So also this is a great project. I mean, I don't see any data myself that will support, the effectiveness of the project. I mean, so that's my main concern, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Ms. Cabrera?
Good evening, Mayor. So, just Mr. Pickett, just thinking about this project, and you mentioning that we're going to recycle the water, could we offer the 12,500 acre feet of water per year for a period of only the initial, 5 years, and then per se, the remainder of the time of the 45 years, could we lower it down to the, 4,000 square acre feet? Or, because it seems like you're not going to be using the water you're not going to be using that amount of water every year because you're going to be reusing it, so.
Mr. Luis Cabrera, this is $1 billion investment. And by you limiting water, you're basically killing the project.
Yeah, we need that amount of water for the project, but we don't use it. We put it back in the ground. It comes out of the ground, runs to the tower, goes back to the ground. But I can't use less water. If I use less water, I make less electricity. Water, hot air is our fuel.
So you will be utilizing 12,500 acre feet of water every year?
Yeah,
that's
it might
why
be,
you need the
and there's
commitment?
probably a little cushion to that, but yes.
Okay.
But we're putting it back in the ground. Every drop we take out, we're putting back in the ground. We're not like a house. Any house in San Luis is going to use more water than we are. Because they're going to take the water and flush it down a toilet after they use a toilet or use a shower or use a sink. That water becomes gray water. We don't make any gray water out of the tower. None. Every drop that we take out of the ground goes back to irrigation. We don't use it. It's not a manufacturing facility. We're making electricity, but electricity, we don't burn up the water. We don't dirty the water. We don't it goes back into the ground. We're just borrowing. It's like a heat exchanger.
Well, I think that if we have the funds, Mayor, and we can possibly get the analysis done prior to moving forward with this project, I think it would be the best thing to do for now. Those are just, that's just my opinion, but I don't know what you guys think.
And I agree, because we definitely, the biggest, I want to make sure that council feels comfortable in order to proceed. And in order for us to proceed, not only are we going to do, does this study, it's not a complete study, it's not going to take 6, 7, 8 months. I think we need to find the right consultant. And I also worry about Ron Pickett in your timing also, because without this agreement, your project's not going anywhere. And I realize that. And the thing is, we don't want to jeopardize this project either. But we definitely need answers. I need council to feel comfortable to proceed. And I need to make sure that the amount of water based on the numbers, the citrus grows over 9,000, and that study was done. We only use 3.7, and let's see here, 3.79. We've already been using it according to that study. You were correct, Glenn. But we definitely need assurance, because as the sense that I'm getting here, it's not going to go anywhere. We need those numbers. We need those assurance. And I understand that time is of an essence, but I need to make sure that council feels comfortable. They should never take a vote when they don't feel comfortable, unfortunately. So I highly recommend I don't want to reject the project. What I definitely want to do is, before we proceed, we need a timeline for this study. Staff needs to definitely define exactly what they want. And we definitely need to know how much it's going to cost us. And the other thing is, how long is it going to take? Because it's not going anywhere. And it appears that we all understand that council is going to pay for this study, or the city is going to pay for this study, and not you, Mr. Rompick. That's what I'm getting right now. So that's my understanding, right, council?
I agree with you, Mayor.
I may add, I agree with what Jenny said, that there was some funds available and the study could be like a generalized study, if that makes any sense, to address all the concerns for future growth in the area. If we were to pay the 70 whatever estimated, I don't think we should pay for it.
But how can we ask Ron Pickett to pay for it if we haven't signed anything for it?
Right. No, then we should, because when Matias explained it, I understood a little bit better what was going on. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So we're willing to pay for this study.
For the general study that Jenny mentioned, that there was funds available to address the concerns for future growth in the area, I'm for that one. For the other one, I think that we should proceed and then the study be conducted as needed, like how Matias explained it. Am I making sense?
Okay, the general study that Matias talked about will deal with the tower also. We can
Yes, correct.
Correct.
Yes, so I'm for that one, yes.
Okay, so the consensus was we need a time frame, we need the price, and we need to do the study, and the city is willing to pay for the general study, not to say specifically for the tower. Is that the consensus?
It is the consensus. Again, on my part is, as long as it's not being done for the tower. I mean, I'll bring up Lazy Boy. We went down to Lazy Boy. Even though they're a furniture manufacturing company, do we have enough water for other byproducts that they might need? We've had different types of produce companies come out here. Do we have enough water? If we're doing the study beforehand, doing this development agreement to get those answers, to sign the development agreement, that's pointless to me. We're doing it because we need it for our economic growth. And then from there, if you guys want to sign this agreement and that's not byproduct, but that's going to be a pre-product of this other study, great. I mean, I just want to clarify, we're not doing it for the tower. We're doing it for the better of our growth, that we run into issues in growing the east side of town, not only in Eddie Lewis Park, Magrino Park, the east side of town in general.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We need study. Council needs assurance that we want to make sure that we can offer that water, and council needs assurance that we won't jeopardize, even though it's been 7 years by now, and it's not going to get constructed in 2 or 3 years. But still, we need assurance.
Yeah, and we talked about doing this water study for months and years before even this project came about. So I think it's time that we need it. And yeah, and Jenny and Iloco and them, they're in this every day. They know that the users come asking. That's the first thing they ask: how much water do you have? How much job-based employment do you have?
Everyone does.
So everyone does. So we need it. We need it. I just want to clarify that part: is we're doing it because we need it, not because we're doing it for another project that might come 20 years from now, 10 years from now.
Okay, good. So Glenn, you were going to say something, Glenn.
I've talked to Jenny about what I'll try to do on my end. I don't know if Bill Plummer is still around or if he's still alive. Bill has got to be close to 80 years old now. Last time I talked to him was about 5 or 6 years ago. He has been, and that's when he was the interim director of the Yuma County Water Users Association. He's been the interim director at the Yuma Mesa Irrigation District, etc. Wade Noble knows him. A lot of people around here in our county know him and work well with him. I would be calling Bill to find out what kind of study do we think we need and who should do it, and get a recommendation from him. And again, I don't know if the gentleman's still around anymore, but that's my source. We need somebody who knows water and knows Yuma County, bottom line.
Yeah, or else we're looking at 1 or 2 years. Okay. Well, I can entertain a motion, and I'm sure that this is not, I mean, we can require the study to continue. Mr. Ron Pickett?
Can I make one suggestion? Because I understand San Luis is concerned about their future growth, houses, commerce, future industry, everything else, schools, people coming in, and how they're going to manage the water. I understand that. I'm sorry, my project has gotten embroiled in that concern because I'm not using your water. I'm not consuming your water. I'm going to make one suggestion because I can do this very, very simply. If the city in its wisdom will approve moving forward with this, subject to me submitting to staff an expert report validating that we're not using your water, that there's nothing in this tower that uses your water, that we're returning it back to the environment, and that in the sole discretion of the staff or the council at the next meeting, you can cancel whatever we've done if you don't like the report. It's not to your satisfaction. I'm caught up in something I don't have anything to do with. I mean, I understand you want to manage your water and how much water you have, but I'm sucking water, and it's always been from day one. When I met with the state to go through this on your behalf 5 years ago, we're taking water out of the ground, putting it through the tower, and putting it back on top of the ground again. It's going back in the ground, just like we had an orchard there. So that's not consuming water. And you need a study to find out how you're going to consume water over the next 10, 20, 30, 100 years, I think it is. That's fine. You have in this agreement, we're going to pay for that study down the road for the whole city to make sure we're not impacting it. I know we're not going to impact that. I don't impact your water usage. I'm borrowing it. So that's my proposal tonight so we can save this project. And if you're not satisfied with the report, you can say the report's no good and the agreement's no good. That's what I proffer tonight, so we can somehow save this.
So then can we do that, something like that?
Sure, you can have a motion that approves the agreement subject to that contingency. I'm not sure how fast I can draft it, but I could sure as hell try to put something together. I would suggest you bump this to your council meeting of next week, so we draft that with precision.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to continue this item to a next scheduled meeting. By that time, we should have a specific type of information regarding the type of study that we're looking for. And I understand the frustration Mr. Ron Pickett has been doing his due diligence for the past 7 years, but we need to make sure, and I understand council's concerns regarding the water. And I do understand the concept about the water being recycled. And I know the state understood the concept when you talked about the water. Of all places, the state is very concerned about Colorado River aqueducts and what's going on in Maricopa in the other region. So if I will now entertain a motion if anyone's interested or at this point in time.
Mayor, I move to have this item in next council meeting's agenda for discussion as well, and
To our next scheduled meeting?
yeah, let me see the date, give me 1 second. So I move that we have this item in our regular council meeting on May 26th.
So you move to continue this item to the May 23rd meeting, correct?
May 26th.
Second.
May 26th? Wait, for clarification, is it May 26th or 23rd?
26.
26th, okay, perfect, May 26th. There's a motion on the floor. There is a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. We have work to do, guys. Okay? Staff, Glenn, okay, Mr. Ron Pickett. Thank you and take care. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Have a good evening. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.